Hi everyone. Today we're gonna talk about talk about how to lift things safely. So we saw a lot of people that injured their back usually when they were trying to lift heavy objects, and that's why it's very important to have a good and relatively safe lifting technique. But obviously, the best way to lift things is using some mechanical aids, like for example, a hoist, rather than lifting it by ourselves. But in a lot of workplace, we don't really have access to any mechanical lifting um, aids. So if we were gonna lift things by ourselves, it's always important to have a good technique so that we don't injure our body. And so in general, if we were going to lift anything up, there are a couple of things that we would have to consider before we do that. So first of all, we would want to have nice and comfortable and supportive shoes. So we wouldn't want to wear slippers or barefoot or anything like that, because we want our feet to be nice and supported if we're trying to lift something heavy. And um and another thing is we always want to push things rather than lift things up, because pushing is a lot easier to physically lift the thing off the ground. And so ideally, we want to try whether we can push the things to wherever we want to take it to before we actually lift it up. And we would also want to have the object nice and close to us before we lift them up. And we always use our legs to lift the thing up instead of bending our back, arching our back, and use our back to lift thing up. And also, ideally, we would want to have more than one person to lift the object up. So if the object is heavy, and so we will want to have, for example, two people to lift it up together. Okay, and so in terms of the procedures of lifting, so before we actually lift the thing up, we always plan first. So what we do first is we look at the object and estimate how heavy the object is and what's the shape of the object, and um, how many people do we need to lift it up. And if we can't lift it by ourselves, then we would get someone else to do it together. And then after doing that, what we would do is think about where we're going to take the object to and plan how we're going to walk, and is there any objects or obstacles on the way that we would have to walk around. And once we've done that, then we're going to actually lift the object up. But we will want to, like we said before, we want to bring the object nice and close to our body, and ideally around our hip level, so that we don't have to bend our back to lift it up. And then we have our feet in our shoulder width. We bend our knees and hip, but not our back. So our back should always be nice and neutral and straight. We don't want to arch our back, because that's one very easy way to get back injuries. And we grip firmly to the object. We tighten up our core and our pelvic floor muscles, and then we lift it up by straightening our body, straightening our knees and hip. Okay? And when we are carrying the object, we want to avoid any twisting movement of our trunk, because that's also another easy way to injure our back. And if we need to change direction, we will try and pivot with our legs rather than our trunk. Okay, and so when we finally got to the destination, what we'll do when we want to unload the object is again bending our knees and our hip instead of bending our back. Okay, and ideally, we would want to place the object close to the edge of, for example, a bench or the table that we'll need to bring the object to. So we'll place the object onto the edge of the bench by, again, slowly slowly bending our legs and hip. And then once the object is on the surface, we push the object, right? We push the object to the center of the bench instead of having to lift it up again and position that object. Okay, and we push with our body weight. Okay, and we're not trying to push it with our abs or anything. We use our whole body weight to push the object. And Yeah, but ultimately the safest way to lift something heavy is definitely using a mechanical aid. So if that's available, we definitely use that. If that's not available, we try and get a coworker to do it together instead of doing it by yourself. And if you were going to do it by yourself, we want to do it as safe as possible. And thank you very much, and hope everyone can live. If they do have to lift something, for example, in the workplace or at their home, they can do it safely and don't injure themselves. Thank you. Bye bye.